The Democratic Republic of Congo has arrested 8 United Nations peacekeepers over sexual exploitation in DRC. Hello, I am Mahlet Ayele, your host at Connect Africa. So just tune in and I will bring you things, revolving around here ever since this news is released in the middle of this week. Now, the United Nations peacekeeping mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo has been there for almost nearly 25 years. The one that's existing now is called MONUSCO, but it has been there at different times, even before. This one was here since starting 1999 under the name MONUC, and then since 2010 under the name of MONUSCO. But before that, at different times, there were different international organizations from UN and others who have been deployed in Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, in this presentation today, what I'm going to bring you is I'll try to look at, for what interests me, what happened first. I'll try to answer what happened to those arrested ones. Secondly, I see, is there a narrative manipulation around these arrested UN peacekeepers? Number three, why the Democratic Republic of Congo is now turning to SADC again, meaning the South African Development Community. We have heard the last May that the president asking to deploy forces from South African Development Community, in particular South Africa. I'll try to look at those things. Now, regarding what happened to these UN peacekeeping forces, what's going to happen is, first of all, this allegation or this accusation by DRC, the arresting came out on 1st October, and then on the 8th, the UN itself has suspended their duty in DRC. And then on 11 October, now they have communicated they will be repatriated, meaning they will leave this mission and go back to where they come from. As you know, UN brings different forces from different countries, as it is a united nation. Now, I just want you to recall, we have to recall that during the United Nations General Assembly, President Felix Tshisekedi has requested publicly the United Nations for accelerated evacuation or of these forces, the UN forces, troops from his country, because they have not been able to defend the country or the people from different armed groups. According to the report from international organizations, over 100 armed groups operate as a rebel in DRC. So they have not been able to defend them, and different crimes have been committed, in where the forces are, as close as 2 kilometers, near to the deployment. So that's why you have seen different protests of Congolese people asking for the United Nations troops to leave, and even clashing with them in some. It's just a recent incident where I think 50 something people, Congolese, have died with their clash. They're killing them. They are there to defend them, and then they were killed by these UN troops because they protested. I don't think you have to pull any bullet on the nation or against the nations that you are deployed to guard. So that is what happened, and this is why over and over President Felix Tshisekedi have been vocal. He has been vocal asking for these troops to leave the country. But when they leave, then what is going to happen? So this is as far as what's going to happen to the arrested one. Now, number two, the point that I want to look at is that, is there a narrative manipulation around here? Why I see that, I want to share with you how let me just share these slides, how Associated Press have been, has published an article. This is a UN force. This is President Tshisekedi talking there. Yeah, before I go to the second point, actually, let me share with you. It's good what to leave you hear what President Tshisekedi said in the United Nations General Assembly. I'm going to share that right now. Now, listen what he says.
President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, on Wednesday called for a speedy withdrawal of a key UN peacekeeping mission that has been in the nation for nearly 25 years. Following a presence of more than 2 decades by the UN, it's time for my country to fully take its destiny in hand and to become the main protagonist of its own stability. We are grateful to the international community and the UN support and their partnership, but we're also aware that the phased withdrawal of MONUSCO is a necessary stage to consolidate progress that we already achieved. The final departure of MONUSCO mission has been at the heart of debates on the DRC's future for years and a source of tension in the Central African nation. It is thus illusory and counterproductive to continue to cling to maintaining MONUSCO, to re-establish peace in the DRC, and to stabilize it. Furthermore, the accelerated withdrawal of MONUSCO is absolutely necessary to ease the tensions between MONUSCO and our citizens. The US warned at a Security Council meeting in June against a hasty
Yeah, so that was his speech in end of September during the 78th United Nations General Assembly. That is the word he used for accelerated withdrawal of MONUSCO, meaning it's the abbreviation, the name of the troops or the mission deployed, the acronym of the organization that's deployed by the UN in DRC. Okay, so that's what he requested, and he gave them an ultimatum or a deadline, like actually he said for it to start by the end of this year. There are around 17,000 troops, if you are asking how much. 17,000 troops of some nations. They have like just in hundreds of thousands of. It's a troop to defend like a national defense of a country, for a smaller size of a country in terms of a number of people. Now, let me go to the slide I want to share with you. I will go to my second point. Why do I raise this narrative manipulation? Look at this now. This came out actually just a couple of hours or 3 hours before I came here now online. Read it. UN will repatriate 9 South African peacekeepers in Congo accused of sexual assault. South African, that is a word I want you to pay attention, okay? I mean, whether they're South African, Gambian, Cambodian, Indian, it just doesn't matter. They are deployed by the UN and they're, performing their work as a by abiding by the United Nations rules and regulations. There is no need to identify them as South African. There is no really, unless Associated Press wants, to bring that a blame game. Or it's not. It's just the Africans themselves who are committing this sexual exploitation. No, the UN has been. All the UN staff has been from Congo to Haiti. all over the world. They are known for their crimes, sexual exploitation, looting, whatever of the natural resource. It could be anything. They have been known for that. So unfortunately, the UN, even in Central African Republic, the same thing. So you cannot just blame it, or it's not necessary really. And I think it's just out of line to identify them as South African. But of course, if you ask me, is this true or not? Yes, they are South Africans, and I'm going to come to that on my third point. But see how even when the person in the United Nations, when they came out in New York and gave the press briefing, there was no identifying of United Nations. But then on the other hand, you see they're still sending their press briefing or whatever, their news to those media outlets in the US and saying, oh, they're South Africans. I mean, this is my observation, and let me know what you think in the comment section later, or even now as I continue. The third point I wanted to touch is that why now DRC or Democratic Republic of Congo is turning for help to SADC. As you know, let me just tell you this background story. In 2010, was it in 2010? Yes, there was a research, an article that came out in 2013 by the Institute for Security Studies of Africa. It's Institute of Security Studies of Africa. It has an office in Senegal, in Dakar, and in Pretoria, and it has also office actually in Addis Ababa. So they publish different research articles. So one of them, he wrote about this in 2013 when there was a MONUSCO, this UN mission already there. As I told you, they have been deployed there from 1999. But in 2013, there was these troops. It was known as a neutral intervention force, NIF. So it was from SADC, actually, from the South African Development Community. Now, the three countries who came, and then who were on the forefront to contribute their forces were South Africa, Malawi, and one other country. I will maybe I forgot now, but I will tell you. So three countries from the Southern African Community. So they were the one. That's how the South African forces came, or became part of the MONUSCO mission in DRC. Now, why they are again in May, Tshisekedi, before he made that speech in at the United Nations General Assembly in May this year, he actually asked the SADC to deploy forces in DRC. And then, because he was already asking the UN to withdraw its forces. So to replace that, I mean, DRC, it cannot be just void. They need forces. There is a DRC force, but it's not enough to fight against 100 rebel groups or armed groups in the country. So they need help. So they turned to SADC. Now, SADC was not responsive enough, because there is this experience already. What happened when they deployed, they asked them actually to become together to assist the DRC national force. But the story is this. Look, from the inception, let me just go into the background and share with you some of the stories, how this came to, in effect. Let me try if I can share with you. It's good to know, because some say, you might see this news again and again saying that, okay, it's the South African, or it's not, like the South Africans are not part of the UN, as if they are not performing or abided by the UN. The rules itself, how they are performing in DRC, it has its own problems. Now, this is the article that came out in 2013, but it gives you a good background, because the writer asks actually, will this intervention force will be able to change things? It says time only will tell. That's how he ends it. And look what happened after 10 years. It's just that, I mean, the root cause of the problem have to be handled. It's not just bringing other forces. It's good to have your own force, if not really maybe an African force, but that's not the case due to lack of funds. This is now the article. The problem started M23. This M23 is the March on March 23 movement. That's why they are called M23. Now you know it as M23 rebel group. Now in 2012, they managed to capture the regional Congolese capital of Goma in 2012, and that is the withdrawal of about 2,000. It's after the Congolese 2,000 soldiers and then 700 Congolese policemen have been withdrawn from this Goma. Goma is the capital city of the region in DRC, in the northern Kivu region. So there are nearly 2,000, 2,000 internally displaced people, or IDPs, in the eastern DRC, and the UN reporting that it has lost access after these troops have withdrawn 30 or like 31 IDPs. They were captured by the M23 armed group. So they needed a help, and then they turned to the SADC, and the SADC was able to, they came 11 countries in the SADC. They have their meeting, and then they agreed to supply force to DRC, about 3,500 soldiers authorized to conduct aggressive peacekeeping operation to protect civilians under imminent threat, and to neutralize armed groups involved in destabilizing the region. Now, this is, of course, it is in line African solutions to African problems, and then the new partnership for African developments. It comes from that spirit for these countries in the Southern Africa region to come immediately to convene that meeting and agree to supply those 3,500 forces to DRC. Now the question was, who is going to fund them, because there is to sustain them even for 1 year, as you see here in this article, it says $100 million was needed, and then DRC said the government offered they will supply $10 million, and the other, of course, by the SADC to be covered. Now, the UN looking at this, they kind of hijacked the program. Look how the articles write it. Let me read it for you. This willingness of the African countries concerned to go it alone, meaning to go to DRC alone by themselves, with that spirit of African solution to African problems. What does it say? It further shook the United Nations and galvanized it into action with the DPKO proposing the deployment of a UN intervention brigade utilizing the SADC troop components that would have deployed under the NIF, meaning the one I told you, the neutral intervention force. So everything else will be under the UN. Look here. So now this stretched force will contribute a second battalion of peacekeepers, but will merely re-roll its existing battalion of troops deploying in and around Goma to be part of the MONUSCO intervention brigade. Now, Malawi will contribute its battalion of peacekeepers previously deployed in Cote d'Ivoire under the UN mission. They're redeploying them to the eastern DRC, together with a platoon of special forces. And then also Tanzania will provide a battalion of troops and the brigade commander. So all this, it becomes under the UN rule, not really as it was anticipated for African solution to African problems. So they become, immediately part of the MONUSCO. Then now, with the most aggressive mandate ever given to the peacekeeping mission, there was much hype, it says the article, has been generated about the expected success and influence of the intervention brigade, because for the past 10 years, ever since its deployment in DRC, they have not been successful. 10 years of peacekeeping deployment, experience in Eastern DRC, the contingent will form a core component of the intervention brigade and much will be expected of it. However, is it realistic to expect that the decisive operational success that would be required can dramatically alter the security environment and deliver the rule of law and humanitarian security that's so desperately needed? So the writer is asking, I will just go to the end, how he concludes it. Now, will South Africa's military forces be a playmaker of MONUSCO and provide some desperately needed credibility in the face of both real and perceived failures to protect civilians? Consider that in the past, mass rapes and atrocities occurred only 2 kilometers from UN bases. Listen to that. 2 kilometers from UN bases without the peacekeepers intervening or even being aware of the incidents or just being ignorant. Okay, so now will this deployment bog down into a cycle of frustrating operations, a protracted counterinsurgency type scenario characterized by atrocities in which entire villages are wiped out by rebel forces in order to divert the attention of the brigade into a defensive mindset focused on the difficult task of protecting? Yeah, so he was asked, there was much anticipation, but what was not paid attention to is that there was this brigade, the UN has hijacked this intervention force, that was most likely to be African solution to African problems, and completely, entirely an African force has been hijacked because they couldn't grasp, they couldn't take it, the idea of just Africans defending themselves or Africa being there for Africans. So they said, okay, as always, this is how they manipulate it. We fund the program, but it will operate under our rules and regulations. So now to come on this for the Associated Press and to say South African forces, that is really I don't know if I may call it racist. There's no need to identify it like that. And when we all know the background of how these forces came, they just couldn't take it. That anticipation and excitement and then hope, expectation given to this force in solving the problem in DRC. Now, some of you may ask then why Felix Tshisekedi, the president of DRC, again coming in May 2023 after 10 years again, and asking SADC to supply force in DRC, because now it is the same South African force, as you see in the Associated Press, is blamed for it. But this time, what we have to pay attention is that he asked in the United Nations, in the face of the world, that for the accelerated withdrawal of UN troops. So when that happens, he wants those African forces to be deployed, which are managed and taking taking instructions from SADC and the government of DRC, not from the UN. So that will make a difference. So I just wanted to give that a clarification, and it's from this angle I want to look at. I wanted to look at this news and then shed some light. As you know, this is a Pan-African platform, so look at things in the from Pan-African perspective, as we all are entitled with all our opinions, but that is from the African perspective. Thank you very, very much for tuning in, all of you. I thank you each and every one. I don't take it for granted. Thank you for your subscription. Thank you, Black. It has been a while. Where have you been? So thank you. Welcome back. Thank you again. You are at it, reminding to like and subscribe. So thank you very much. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and if you like what we bring you, give it a like, and then also share it with your networks, family, to whomever you think that this information is relevant. Let's empower each other with information and knowledge. So I will see you on the next one. Thank you very much. If you want to help us further, you can go to the description section, you will see our PayPal account, and you can donate it through there. I will also pin it in the comment section. So let me know as well your thoughts on this. On the Tshisekedi asking for the withdrawal of UN troops from DRC, and then in general the UN troops crime commitment, over sexual exploitation and others, and then this identifying it as South African peacekeepers. No, it's really it's interesting, to say the least. And please share your thoughts. Thank you. Thank you again, and don't disappear again, Black. Okay. Ciao, ciao. Bye.